Hello, Barracuda fans, and welcome to our first episode of Next Wave, as we are proud to be joined by incoming freshman Zachary Gallant, as well as Barracuda marketing manager Joey Goldstein. Gally, you haven't played a single game for the organization with either the Barracuda or the Sharks, but I would assume Gally is probably an appropriate nickname for you.
Yeah, that one's been going around for a bit, so I'm used to it.
Okay, so we're in a good spot. The $1 million question: how are you holding up? Where are you at right now? And everybody's going through this quarantine and isolation. So where are you stationed, and how are things going for you?
Yeah, things aren't going too well. Too bad at all. Since the weather started getting better, been able to get outside more and just starting to enjoy getting back to somewhat normal here in Oakville, which is 20 minutes west of Toronto. So start of quarantine was pretty tough, especially with the season being canceled. But after wrapping my head around the fact that everybody was going through it and there's a lot going on, it kind of alleviated that pain.
So unfortunately, your junior career came to an end with an abbreviated season, as as many dealt with the seasons, halting because of COVID-19. But you grew up in London, a couple hours outside of Toronto. You were a first-round pick in the OHL by Peterborough way back in 2015. I'm sure it feels like a lifetime ago. But you were drafted at a very young age in the first round into a premier junior hockey league. If you don't mind going way back to 2015, what was that experience like to be a first-round selection in the OHL and kind of realizing, I'm sure for a kid who grew up in the Toronto area, realizing a dream of sorts?
Yeah, it was pretty cool for sure. I remember how excited I was draft day, going up to Peterborough and meeting the entire organization. It's forever ago. I don't remember a ton. I just remember how excited I was at the time to be a part of the organization. I know, there's a lot of ups and downs in junior, but, I grew a ton as a person and learned a lot.
You said it was a little bit difficult even to remember way back in 2015 when you were drafted. I'm sure the memories have faded a little bit, but going back all the way to that time, you go into your first year in the OHL and you're in Peterborough, and this is a Premier League, the OHL. There's been a lot of guys who have made the leap to the National Hockey League having played in that league, but you're a young guy, right? You're still developing your body, still trying to get used to the speed and the physicality of the game. How did you adapt to playing with kids that are older? You get some overage guys who are 20, guys who probably have full beards and they're physically have met their maturity. So how was it adjusting to playing in the OHL way back in that first year?
I know it wasn't easy. I had, I think I had a lot tougher of a 16-year-old year than most high picks did. Struggling with injuries and lack of playing time. But I think I learned a lot that 16 year, and especially going into the summer after it, it taught me how hard I had to work to come and be ready for a season.
The following season was more or less your breakout year with 47 points in 60 or so games. You had a chance to play the World U17 Challenge for Team Canada. Do you feel like that experience helped kind of springboard that breakout season and your success moving forward?
So I actually played U17 at the start of my 16 year. So I actually didn't even get invited to the U18 camp or anything like that. So instead of, by looking at that standpoint, Hockey Canada really didn't reach out to me after my U17. So I used that a bit as a motivation factor to, try to make those programs. But junior was tough. I struggled a lot with injuries in junior. Last year was really the first year that I've been able to stay in the lineup consistently, which was nice. But there was a lot of ups and downs, especially, some of the setbacks I had during the season.
To segue off that question from Joe, you did deal with some injuries throughout your career, and I'm sure that was frustrating for you. Was there anybody that you leaned on during those times? Because not only do you have to have the mental fortitude to try to forge forward and get through these injuries and continue to try to not think about re-injuring yourself, but there was anybody that you kind of relied on to help you get through it mentally?
There's probably a lot of people that I had to rely on, but I think the biggest thing I had to look internally to find that drive to keep going. And especially during the season when you're injured, it's not easy, especially when you want to be contributing to what's going on the ice and you're stuck in the stands. So it helped me find that motivation and that drive to push even harder to get back healthy and be better than I was before I got injured.
You said you didn't recall, again, your OHL draft day, but I'm sure you recalled your NHL draft day. You were third round pick by the Red Wings following that 16-17 campaign. Can you take us back? What are your memories of that day?
Yeah, I remember that day being super exciting. We were in Chicago, went out and had a great dinner after. I was super excited. My family was there. My aunt and uncle were there. And it was a lot of fun.
The next 3 years following the draft in Peterborough, you went on to wear a letter. You were an alternate captain for a year. You were the captaincy for 2 years. What was your mindset, and how did that kind of change the way you viewed your role on the team once you were given that leadership opportunity?
Yeah, I think especially the way I try to behave in the room, I just try to not let the letter influence my decision, but as I'm known as a leader, just continue to do the right things on a regular basis. I think a big thing is your respect to the dressing room is a really big thing, and treating guys the way you want to be treated is also big. So just coming in and trying to give everybody a good environment to come in and succeed in, because we're around each other at least 4 to 5 hours a day on average. So, the more guys cooperate with each other, the better it'll be for everybody.
Hate to go back to it, but after you did sustain your injury back in 2018-19, how did you try to overcome that setback? Again, I'm sure it was a mental grind at times, but how did you try to kind of move forward and get beyond that?
Yeah, that wasn't easy. That was, especially having ankle surgery, I think less than 10 games in the season was tough. We had a really good therapist come in that year, help me out. I did a lot of treatment, and just had to look at it and really try to control what I can control. I mean, at the end of the day, there wasn't really much I could do after I got hurt, and I had to kind of restart the whole process and take it day by day.
At the end of that 2018-19, you signed an ATO with the Toledo Walleye in the ECHL and joined them for the end of their season and their entire run all the way to the Kelly Cup final. What was that experience like for you, and how did that help you heading into the 19-20 season?
I think it was super cool. I think any time you get a chance to make it all the way to the finals in any league is a pretty special thing. So I'm super grateful to have been a part of that. But just getting a taste of pro and seeing the big difference from junior was super great for me. So there was a lot I learned from that run, and tried to take that into this season in Peterborough, especially when we were trying to win a championship.
Going back to that stint with the Walleye, you said, you struggled at times during your junior career with a multitude of factors, whether it was when you first started and you weren't getting enough playing time or dealing with injuries, but you go up and you play at a high level of pro hockey, you have a lot of success. That had to have propelled, as you mentioned, going into this past season, try to win a championship. Overall confidence, that had to really boost your confidence.
Yeah, it did for sure. When I was in Toledo, I was given every opportunity to succeed, and I really ran with it. So I came back to Peterborough ready to go and ready to push for a championship.
We mentioned you were drafted by the Wings, but you did, if I'm not mistaken, you did re-enter the draft following that third round selection. What was the thought process behind all that?
Yeah, that was a super quick turnaround. I remember, I think if I would have had a lot more time to sit around and think about it, it would have been a lot different. But we didn't finish up in Toledo till, I want to say, June 10th, and the draft wasn't till another 2 weeks after. So I wasn't really, too worried about it. I knew it was going to take care of itself. And I remember talking to a couple teams before the draft, Doug Wilson Jr. included. And, even if I didn't get drafted, I knew I was going to have opportunities to go to camps and try to get a contract.
So you talk about those opportunities at camps. One of those opportunities obviously was the Sharks development camp, where you made a big splash in that prospect game with a fight and some pretty impressive offensive game. When did the Sharks, was it during the draft process where they first approached you about signing in San Jose, and what made you feel like San Jose was the right landing spot for you?
I just remember talking to my agent about it, and just looking at the situation within the organization and, the people within it. I think going over, especially the fact that the Barracuda were owned by the Sharks and how they care a lot about their prospects was a big thing. But I just remember getting into San Jose, especially after the draft, and at the time meeting Pete DeBoer and meeting Doug Wilson throughout the week. It was super cool, and I think the fact that I was still in somewhat of a game shape helped. But having that great camp and getting the chance to sign a deal was super cool. And I've been working hard to come in next year, whenever that happens, and to be ready to play.
You mentioned the American League team being in the same city. Was that a factor for signing? Was that kind of an intriguing thing, knowing that, no matter what, you are going to have eyes from upper management on you probably at all times?
Yeah, I think that's always a big thing. I know a couple of guys who have been on teams in the American League that have had different ownerships, and I think there's been not a lot of issues there, but I think it's easier when the top organization's on the same page as the AHL team. So that was a big thing, and I knew Merck from Peterborough, so that was another thing, and him and I trained together a lot, so that was also a big factor to why I came to San Jose at the time.
Hopefully we won't have to wait too long to see your playing style firsthand. We did get a glimpse of it, as Joey alluded to, at development camp a couple years ago. But if you don't mind, describe the type of game that you want to play and that fans should expect when you make your way to San Jose.
Yeah, no, just play a hard two-way game. Whatever the organization or the coach needs me to do, I'll try to do, whether it's playing on the PK, playing on the PP, just try to come in and, do my job to the best of my abilities.
You're a big-bodied centerman. Is there a certain player in the National Hockey League who you try to model your game after?
I remember I used to say Ryan Kessler before he retired. Sort of a similar hard-nosed two-way center who's not really afraid to get in the dirty areas.
Sharks fans familiar with Kessler during his time, of course, with the Canucks and both with the Ducks. All right, let's pivot and change gears a little bit. We talked a lot about your hockey career. We'll touch a little bit on it, but we do have a few rapid-fire questions just for fans to understand a little bit more about yourself. So I'll start with the first question, pretty easy one, and we may have the answer because it says at the bottom of your Zoom. What do you prefer, Zachary or Zach?
Yeah, Zach's good.
Zach's good. What would your mom call you? Is she calling you Zachary, or is she giving you Zach as well?
I think Zachary comes out when she's a little not happy with me, but it's usually Zach.
When you haven't taken out the garbage or cleaned the dishes.
Yeah, or something like that, yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
When you were growing up, did you grow up with siblings? And if you did, where do you rank? Are you the oldest or in the middle?
Yeah, I'm the oldest. I have two younger sisters. They both danced a lot growing up, so went to a couple competitions, but I'm in the hockey, there in the dance.
So maybe you got the light feet from them.
A protective older brother?
Yeah, somewhat. I let them do their thing.
Okay, we've got a lot of guys on the team, maybe not so much on the Barracuda, but you get a few guys who are very superstitious. They've got game day routines. Do you have anything that you've got to do on a game day and it's not getting changed and you're going into a game doing the same thing?
I know a lot of guys with a lot of bad superstitions. So I was I was lucky enough never to have anything too ridiculous. I think the biggest thing is either getting a nap in or just getting all 3 sticks ready to go. Those are my biggest superstitions. I try to stay away from, letting things distract me on game days.
Being from Canada, hockey is just in the blood. Everybody kind of has it instilled in them at a young age. When did you first start playing hockey? And when did you realize that playing professionally may be a realistic possibility for you?
I think I started getting on skates at 2 or 3 years old, so I was pretty young. But playing professionally, I mean, everybody has a dream playing professionally as a kid. I don't think until my minor midget year, where I was looking at the what was going on with the draft, that I could really have a shot at making the NHL. I know that I always cared about it and always loved playing hockey, but never really worried about it too much until that NHL draft year.
During your time in the OHL or during development camp, whether it was in Detroit or San Jose, you've played with a lot of guys. So I have a 2-part question for you. Who is the best player that you've ever played with, and who has been the best player that you've ever played against?
I think that's a good question, actually. Off the top of my head right now, I think the best player or players I played against was when London had Marner, Kachuk, and Dvorak on the line. That was either of those 3 guys were pretty good and tough to play against. I don't think I got on the ice against them too much. I think the best player I've played with, just off the top of my head, I'd say it's one of 2 guys. It's either Keel Thomas or Nick Robinson. Both those guys are really good at what they do, and especially when seeing them at World Juniors on a much bigger scale, you saw what they were able to do. And I remember coming back, we were really good down the stretch with those 2 guys on our team.
Away from the hockey rink, what are you doing to stay busy? What are some of your hobbies, your activities? Are you a golfer? Do you fish? I mean, what makes you tick?
I've been doing a lot of different stuff lately. No, I've been golfing a ton, obviously. Rinks are starting to open up here, but I haven't been on the ice a whole lot. Been hiking a little bit. Doing a lot of track work and trying to stay in shape for whenever hockey starts up again.
Yeah, if you can swing the sticks, you'll fit in the locker room pretty quickly. I know a lot of the guys like to play, and being in San Jose, we've got pretty good weather. We can play all year round. So if you got some skills, you're going to fit in pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Keep going. Excuse me.
Oh yeah, my handicap's definitely getting a little better.
I think, if it hasn't gotten better during this time, then I think you're doomed. I think your golf game is doomed. Everybody, they've improved a little bit over this time, because what else are you supposed to do? All right, three things that fans, unless you told them to their face, wouldn't know about you. So 3 things that fans wouldn't know about you unless you told them.
I think the biggest one, and with my teammates too, I speak 2 languages. So I speak English and French. So I'm bilingual. I was 2 other things. I'm pretty passionate about school. I've always been a big school guy, so trying to get that degree. And 3rd thing, I don't try to be I wouldn't say the typical hockey guy, but I definitely have a lot of interests outside of hockey, and just try to soak up information, not just about sports in general, but learn a bit about everything in life and try to grow as a person that way.
You'd mentioned you played with Ryan Merkley in Peterborough. If you can, without saying anything that might be too off the record, do you have a funny story, memory that you can share from a time with him sharing a locker room as teammates?
Yeah, I think Merk gets a bit of a bad rap. I know that, being in the locker room and being around him so much, he's a really genuine guy and cares a lot about his teammates. So from that standpoint, I think Merk is a lot of fun and he's great to be around. but let me just think of Merck's story.
We are going to eventually interview him, and we will probably ask him the same exact question. So
Yeah, about me. No, I don't think I have anything. I'll think. I'll get back to you on that one. I'll think about that one and try to find somebody. And how's that sound?
perfect.
We'll circle back. I don't know if you had to
Yeah.
do much of this during junior because you did have billet parents, I would assume. But can you cook? And if so, what is your favorite meal to cook?
Yeah, I've been lucky enough I had great billets with cooking, but my mom's actually a really good cook. So every time I'm home, I'm spoiled, and I try to help her out a little bit, and knowing that I'm going to be living on my own next year for good, trying to pick up some stuff in the kitchen. But I think my staple is boiled eggs and just putting whatever's in the leftover in the microwave and making a nice plate out of that.
Fair enough.
If you could travel anywhere in the world, where would you go and why?
That's a cool one because I think I really want to travel either, right after the season in the future or after my hockey career. But I think what's next on the bucket list is just a backpack through Europe. I think that's at the top.
Yeah, I think that's a pretty good choice. Are you going to Northern Europe? Are you going up to the Sweden, Finland, all that, or were you more Southern Europe? You thinking, France?
I think do the classics like
Italy.
France, Italy, and Germany. But I've also wanted to do Austria and Croatia too. I've heard those are great places.
All right. What's your go-to karaoke song if you were put on the spot, maybe during a rookie party or something where you've got to sing some karaoke? What song are you going with?
Go-to karaoke song. Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls. That's always a big one. Trying to get that rap part is always
TLC, there we go.
Yeah.
Obviously, during this pandemic, people have had a lot of time to catch up on their favorite shows, binge watch a Netflix series or Hulu or HBO. You could recommend a series to people to watch. What would you recommend?
That's a good question. I remember I haven't been watching that much TV lately. But just good shows off the top of my head. Game of Thrones, all the HBO stuff is up there. But on Netflix, if I would recommend anything, I liked Animal Kingdom a lot. Actually, I haven't watched the new seasons, but that was a pretty cool show. That's out of California, isn't it?
I think so. I think it's Southern California.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's a good show.
Checked out. I'll take a look. This has been a different off season for everybody, but what would a normal off season look for you? What is your training regimen? Where are you stationed? What's going on in a normal off season?
I've actually been pretty lucky. So since stuff's opened up and social distancing and the max amount of people has been lifted, I've been able to, work with my trainer who was a track runner, and been going with him early mornings and then headed to his garage to lift in a small group. So it's been pretty good from that standpoint. And I did that last summer too, but the only thing I'm really missing right now is the on ice aspect. And now that we're in July, it's time to start getting on. So I gotta figure that out.
What, I guess, kind of spin off that, now that obviously you can't do some of those normal off-season activities and knowing you can't really get on the ice the way you normally would, how else are you like inline skating, roller skating? Are you doing drills in the driveway? What are you doing to stay in hockey shape?
I've shot the pucks, and we got a big shooting net set up in the backyard. I've been shooting pucks a little bit, but I haven't really been too worried about it. I think the biggest aspect for me is just trying to get in optimal shape to be able to compete and keep up with the big guys. I know when I'm going to be able to get on the ice, I'm going to go hard, but I got to make sure I can move with them first and be as strong as them. So that's been my biggest focus. I also bought a road bike too, so I've been flying around that thing a little bit. Those are fun.
A lot of you guys have been rollerblading. Have you thrown on any rollerblades?
A little bit. I know the Mars blades are a big hit, but not a ton.
All right, what's your favorite movie of all time? You mentioned some Netflix shows you recommend, some stuff you're watching, but what movie is your favorite of all time?
I'm a big movie guy. I think off the top of my head, I like Inglourious Basterds. I like a lot of Quentin Tarantino movies. That's a good movie. Watched. I'd say as of right now, it'd probably either be Inglourious Basterds or Inception.
Well, you have to bring those on movies. We're always looking for different movies. Always looking at it.
Especially as a young guy, you gotta make sure.
100%. I think it's usually up to the first year guys who have to bring the different movies. That's it for me. Joe, you got anything else?
Yeah, last one, I guess. What are you looking forward to here in San Jose?
A lot of things. I know that is not as consistently nice as California, so I'm super excited for that. But just getting my foot into the door with pro hockey. I know that it's always been a dream of mine, and getting a bit of a taste of it playing the ECHL was good, but especially at the AHL and NHL level, it's a lot higher and a lot more competitive. So just try to come in and be a sponge and learn from the best. I think that's the biggest thing I'm excited about.
Well, Zach, we can't thank you enough. Hopefully we'll have you out in San Jose in no time. Hopefully we can get the season started somewhat on time. I think it'll be delayed a little bit, but if we can get it going, I think everybody will be happy. I know one thing's for sure. If you keep the lettuce like it is right now, you'll be at the end of the year and you'll be in the mix for the top hair award. That's for sure. You've got similar hair to Trevor Carrick, a little bit of wave in it, and he was he had the best flow on the team. So you're right in the mix.
It's probably gonna be long getting a cap, so we'll see if I get a haircut or not.
All right, man. Take care. Stay safe, and hopefully we talk to you soon.
Sounds good. See you guys.